Last video, I presented an overview of the course by reading to you from the first 4 paragraphs of the syllabus. In doing so, I tried to emphasize 3 main points. First, I presented some facts about the origins of comics. Second, I gave a system for reading, for breaking down the text and then synthesizing your ideas about the text. Third, I emphasized the importance of interpretation, because the text makes no meaning alone. It needs you to speak its truth. It needs you to read it and to interpret it. In this video, I want to cover some logistics about the course. So I invite you to turn back to the syllabus and look at the course policies and requirements section. There I detail that the course asks of you 2 essays, a comic project, a comic shop collaborative, and 2 tests. Each of those is covered under the navigation bar, and if you explore the navigation bar, you'll find detailed instructions about those assignments. Finally, I say that participation in the discussion forums is optional. You don't have to join the discussion forums. You don't have to post. But I invite you to look at those and to take some risks, to find your voice and to enter into the discussion of both the lectures and the assignments. That will help you understand the course and proceed through it. Turning the page in the syllabus, or if you're just following on your computer, scrolling down a little bit, we come to the schedule. The schedule covers the story I want to tell you about comics. Comics have a fascinating history. There are many comics, many different forms and styles and artists, and I can never cover them all. What I hope to give you is a structure for understanding how comics came to be what they are today. In telling that story, I'm going to call on some colleagues and friends to help me fill it out. Jim Vaca, high school teacher and collector of comics, will speak on the idea of collecting comics and on Frederick Wortham. Barry Barrows, also a high school teacher, will talk about how he approaches teaching comics. Wayne Winsett, the owner of Time Warp Comics, will take us through a comic book store and what it is to sell comics, why selling comics is different from just selling books. And finally, Chris Angel, the director of Denver Comic Con, will tell us about the community of comics and why conventions are a major part of that community. Throughout this story, I'm going to touch upon different themes and different authors. And this brings me to the texts. Let me say that I've designed this course so that you don't have to buy any books at all. Indeed, the first 3 weeks of the comic book story I'm going to tell really are topical in nature, and you don't have to buy any comics to cover those 3 weeks. If you decide, looking through the schedule, that there are some comics you'd like to own and read and delve into, that'll certainly enrich your experience. But ultimately, if you follow the lectures, and if you look at my examples, that's enough to understand the story and to do well in the course. No doubt, everybody will wish that I included a slightly different selection. No doubt, everybody will say, but he's missed Marvel Civil Wars! He's missed Batman 137, the greatest comic ever! So the story I tell will be incomplete. It will not cover every single comic or every great comic artist. Those are out there for you to discover and for you to relish. And I invite you to go out there and be your own storyteller. But the story I tell will give us both a history of comics and a way of reading them, a way of deepening our appreciation and understanding of every comic book page that our eyes traverse. So, to further our discussion of reading, I have here a page from Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, a great book for understanding how comics work. And this is really my favorite page of McCloud's book, and I want to read it to you. Here in the first panel, I'm on the second page of the syllabus. It's printed there. Here in the first panel is Scott in what looks like a TV screen. And right on his side there is a film strip. So imagine the strange world of eyes and TV and film. And he says, the closure of electronic media is continuous, largely involuntary, and virtually imperceptible. But closure in comics is far from continuous and anything but involuntary. Now you die! No! No! Yeah! Every act committed to paper by the comics artist is aided and abetted by a silent accomplice, an equal partner in crime, known as the reader. I may have drawn an axe being raised in this example, but I'm not the one who let it drop or decided how hard the blow or who screamed or why. Now you die! No, no! Ah! That, dear reader, was your special crime, each on your own committing it in your own style. All of you participated in the murder. All of you held the axe and chose the spot. MacLeod makes a brilliant point here. His point begins in the first tier of the page, and in it, he contrasts film and comics. Film comes at us. It spins right towards us. It flickers on the screen, and the panels go by fast, out of our own control. But comics are in our control. Our eyes lock on to each panel, and then they move from panel to panel. So MacLeod demonstrates that in this great middle tier, where he shows us some man, some monster, about to kill another. And in between there, in between the blow and the scream, the action happens. It depends upon us to happen. It could be in a film. It could cut away and leave that undecided. But here, we're really participating. We're going over it panel by panel and pulling it together. MacLeod uses the term closure. He says that we provide the closure. We pull those panels together and make them mean. We drop the axe. We decide where the blow fell. We read how loud the scream. We participate. We interpret by nature comics. But why is this a special crime? Why doesn't he say, this is a marriage? Why is it a crime? And I want to suggest it's a crime because we imagine that the artist's intention is fixed on the page, held there perfectly, beautifully. And we imagine that our role as readers is merely to appreciate that intention. But in fact, we're criminals. We don't just appreciate the intention. We steal it. We make it our own. We develop it into something new. And so, comics are always about remaking what has been, remaking it anew, stealing, struggling, I would say, with what exists and what will be. That notion of struggle is critical here because it's part of the interpretation. And every time we read, that struggle is replayed differently. It's never the same. The axe always falls a little differently because the closure of intention is incomplete. The page is never exactly what the artist meant. It's always exactly what we make it as we struggle to read it at the time. For example, if you turn the page, we have here an example of Rudolf Topher's early graphic novels. But this example itself was first printed in 1837. But then that edition was stolen, reprinted in America in 1842. Again, the communication of comics is about a struggle. It's about a struggle in which the comics are remade, reprinted, stolen, and made anew for each new generation of reading. Now, overall, this is true for all literature. Comics simply bring it to light. So why study comics? That's the question that I opened us with. Why study comics at all? And I say this, study comics because they are a great literature. Indeed, they are a great literature which show us the truths not just of all literature, but of the human condition itself. Onwards.